gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. We are back and better than ever. My name is Bradley Ball, and it is so good to have you with us. On Tuesday, we had Nico Nurembauer, Senior Product Manager from the Azure SQL Managed Instance Product Group. We talked about all of the amazing announcements, 14 different announcements that were revealed the week of the past summit on Live 360. Who hosted, who won, what happened? If you want to see that, go and check out our videos. We're over on YouTube. Every video is logged after the live broadcast, so you can check it out at your convenience. Want to interact with the show? It is easy. We are streaming right now on the Twitter accounts of Josh Ludeman, Bradley Ball, SQL Balls, Neeraj Jafari, Tales from the Field, over at LinkedIn on SQL Balls, and also live at our Tales from the Field channel. Make a comment on any of those streams, and one of my wonderful co-hosts will see that and potentially add your comment to the show. And of course, let me introduce these co-hosts of mine. I am joined by Andreas Padilla, Josh Ludeman, and his silence speaks volumes, but his smile is a ray of 1,000 lights, beams of sunshine, Mr. Neeraj Jafari. As if it couldn't get any better than that, we are joined by a true SQL legend. Bob Ward is a principal architect on the Azure Data Product Group. Bob has forgotten more about SQL than you and I or dear viewer will ever know about SQL Server. He is a well-known, internationally sought-after speaker and presenter, which is slightly different than our good friend Buck Woody, who is just internationally sought-after. He is a prolific blogger and author. His most recent book, SQL Server 2022 Revealed, is available for purchase. I also want to take a moment to call out his philanthropic nature. Not easy for me to say, but it's true. He donates all the proceeds of his books to charity. And one of my favorite things that we do at conferences, every conference I've been at with Bob, is we give back to the local community. I've been a part of building hygiene kits for homeless teens, participating in raising awareness and also donations for a food bank. The culture of giving on the Azure SQL team is just really absolutely amazing. And Bob, you're at the center of that. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being with us.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. I've heard a lot about your show. And when you reached out to me and said, hey, Bob, would you like to come on our show? I'm like, of course. I mean, I've known you guys for a while, and you're super great people for the community, for our products. And it's really, really nice to be in here. I really have touched, it's cool for you to say that I've been here a long time, worked on SQL a long time, about the book, very proud of that. But the comment about the charity and the volunteer event, to be candid with you, that's extremely important to me, more important than anything that I do. Just real quick, I'll just tell you that I developed that philosophy a little bit. I've done it for my whole life. Like, I've been a volunteer. I've done a lot of charitable type things. But as far as part of my work with Microsoft, it started during the pandemic. I told myself, if I got on the road again, I would find these opportunities as much as I could to do those kind of things. And Bradley, were you with us at BITS? I can't remember if you did the thing at BITS.
I was. Yes, absolutely.
So, think about this. In March at SQL BITS, we connected with a local volunteer organization to help, as people came into grocery stores, help give them information about how they could donate food into a shopping cart at the store. And one young lady stopped me as we were in Atlanta. It was with Anna Hoffman, my little gig there at one of the stores. And Liddy says, what are you doing here? Like, you're Americans. What are you doing here volunteering for a local organization? We told her our story, what we're doing, and they're just blown away by that. It's very important to me. As it turns out, Josh, next week, we're doing it again. We're going to be at Azure Data Conference in Las Vegas. So we got another volunteer event Wednesday evening. Marisa Matthews helps coordinate a lot of these things for us. She's amazing. So we're going to go do again. We're going to be back for the youth homeless shelters. And I think we're going to do some Christmas decorating, I believe, for the kids as part of that.
Wow.
So yeah, anytime I can do anything like that, it's extremely important to me. And it's an important part of my personal philosophy.
Well, and I don't want to overlook this because I saw the pictures of it when you were in Seattle for the past summit. You and some of our MVPs and some of the great other program managers on the Azure SQL product group, you were all over at a local food bank, and you were helping making boxes for folks for that food bank. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Marisa, again, arranged for us to do this. This is in downtown Seattle. We were actually at a place that's a food distribution center for food banks. So think about the food bank for food banks, this massive warehouse. We went in there and we just helped organize food for them to give to food banks. But here's a cool part of the story. Some of our teammates from Serbia, you talked about Nico, were there that week in Seattle. They came with us. And they were like, look, we do that kind of type thing a little bit over where we are, but we don't do anything like this. Like, so they were really blown away by, the whole thing we had put together. So yeah, we did a local food bank, a volunteer event as part of that Week of the Past Summit. And again, it's pretty important for me to still get to do these kind of activities as much as I can. Sometimes I can't do it every time I travel. So if I can't do it where I travel, I try to find a way to do donations. In fact, I remember, Bradley, if I remember correctly, a year ago or so, we were in Orlando for a live event, and we really couldn't do an activity then. So I think you had recommended a local organization that we could at least donate to. And here's one of the cool things about Microsoft. Microsoft will 100% match any funds we donate to a charity like that. But think about the volunteer events we do. So at that volunteer event in Seattle and one next week in Vegas, they match our hours with dollars. So yeah, so even if we go somewhere and do some volunteer activity, we register with Microsoft, and the company will give cash to that organization per the hours that we actually donate per time. Yeah.
And I love that, because when we were over at SQL Bits, and you're right, we're over in another country and we're volunteering for their food pantry, and in those hours that we put in, we were able to put in the charity code associated with that. That went to a donation that went to that food pantry based off of every single one of us, the time we spend. When I joined Microsoft, I remember when we got to our very first gift month that we have internally, and it's just a great culture that Microsoft has about giving to charity. And there were entire charities that were funded by hundreds of Microsofties who had gotten together to go, we're going to raise money during this period of time, but also it's through our hard work and donations that these things come to fruition. And I was just blown away, because there's a link you can go to find different things to donate to. And it's not just like a couple, it's pages and pages. Like if you sat there and read for the whole month, you couldn't get through everything that everyone is doing. And we do auctions, and we, just have all these different charities that will broadcast. And so many people go, I'm doing a fundraiser for this, who wants to participate? It's a beautiful culture we have. But I can tell you, when we leave those conferences and we've done something good for the community, it's probably one of the best feelings that I have. It's absolutely amazing.
I mean, here's my thinking. If I'm traveling on the road, I'm in Vegas next week, right? I got plenty of opportunities to go to a nice dinner, whatever I want to do, right? I mean, at least I could take one evening out of this event to not go to one of these lavish dinners and go and do something for the local community. Like, how can I not do that? So I kind of think about trying to take all the blessings that I've been given and try to give it to someone else. So, you have that classic hashtag pay it forward thing, and I use that a lot. So I have a little bit of a hesitancy. I try to post when I do these things. You saw the post from Seattle. I post with these activities, but I'm not posting it about me. I'm just posting it so that people can see and be inspired to do it for themselves. That's really why I do it. It could be the book royalties. I would do that. I take all my royalties for my books. It's not a lot, but when I do actually donate as well. Find a charity that I believe in, a cause I believe in, and then of course Microsoft matches that as well. So it's just something I feel strongly about, and just trying to encourage others to do as much as they can as possible.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Bob.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, part of what we do on Thursday is a roundtable. We've got all these different articles that the team has put together. And so I'm going to go ahead and over to that, and we can start to discuss these. And please feel free to chime in on anything you want. And again, thank you again for being with us, Bob. I'm sure some of this stuff is just going to touch your technical heart, and you're going to have probably some great stuff that you can tell us about this with how much you're involved with. Sure. So first up, I've got Neeraj, and I'm actually on the wrong one. I apologize, Neeraj. That's going to be our. No, there we go. Let me do that. The power of positive thankfulness. 5 helpful tips.
Yep. So wanted to go with the theme that we had this week for thanking. And as Bob said, right, it's always good to thank somebody, right? We have something and we need to be thankful to something. So these are 5 useful things, 5 tips that these guys are giving us up. And so Hendrik Edberg is giving up. One of them, which I really like, is pause and look around, right? At least be thankful for the 3 people that are around you, right? I mean, just say thankful to them. Try to be appreciative of what you are doing it, and be gratitude, right? So, I mean, I like Bob, definitely like your idea, right? I mean, big lavish dinners and all those stuff. Just spend one day out and do something new. That's something I would definitely go forward looking for it next time.
Well, and there's so many things, right? Like the be thankful for things that you take for granted. There's so many things that I mean, certainly I don't know about y'all, but it always strikes me of when I'm sick, right? When you're sick, you can't help but go, oh, the next time I'm better, I am not going to take this for granted. But there's so many things like that in life that you can look at. There's a beautiful phrase I heard that Kevin Bacon said, and it was Tim Chapman. Hey, buddy, our good friend Tim Chapman watching us.
Oh, wow.
How you doing?
Tim Chapman, how's it going?
But Kevin Bacon had said something positive and good in his life was happening, and he said, "This too shall pass." And I thought, well, that's interesting. I've always heard that when it's a sad thing, when you're saying that as a message of comfort. But it's also important because somebody had asked him about that, and he said, well, it's important to realize that these moments when you see your kids playing with one another, or, it's a beautiful moment as a parent. We've all had that where you catch them being nice to one another and you can't help but feel good inside. And he goes, you have to look at every single moment in front of you and go, this will pass. This is momentary and fleeting. Appreciate those good moments that they have in front of you. So really, really great stuff. I absolutely love that, Neeraj. Way to go. So next up is me. I have a 2022, a year of unparalleled innovation with Azure SQL Managed Instance. This is by Borko over in the product group for Managed Instance. And one of the things this does is this summarizes, so kind of sticking with our theme of our guest, Nico had talked about all the amazing things that we had released. This is a summary of the amazing features that have come out in 2022, the price per performance and how we have optimized that within the service, including the optimizations for backup technology. And then on top of that, all of these new and amazing features that were announced in the last couple weeks, and just how some of this all feeds back to one another. There's so much. It's hard to imagine literally the amount of goodness that we have coming out of SQL Managed Instance, and some of those preview items that have been announced that we're going to get as the year continues to go along. In the pre-show, as a matter of fact, we were talking about some of that. I think I'll save some of that until we get to the next blog that I've got. But this will definitely be in the comments. So go and check this out, especially if you want to look back and understand a little bit more of what Nico was talking about when he was on the show.
One of those things that you have on there, we'll talk about one later, but one of the things you have on there is the new link feature for Managed Instance. It's got that great SQL Server tie to it. And if you saw the past keynote, Anna and Hoffman had this fun back and forth. I don't understand why Anna always wins. Every time we're on stage together, we have some battle of demos. She always wins. I don't get it every time. Probably smarter than me, that's why. Anyways, we did these demos, right? And one of the things we did was the link feature of Managed Instance. And I showed the ability on stage to fail over to Managed Instance from SQL Server 2022 using distributed availability groups all built in. And then what I did is take a backup on Managed Instance, which you can do, right? And restored it back to SQL Server, because now, this is pretty crazy, all your Managed Instances are compatible with SQL Server 2022 at the database version level. So we've created this really cool thing in Managed Instance where at the database version level, you can take it back. That's why things are not compatible normally to go backwards, because the Managed Instance is a higher DB version level than what your on-premises usually are, but they're not now. So here's the cool thing. So you can take a backup, restore it back to SQL Server 2022. So kind of like an offline DR type scenario, or you could just restore it for dev test purposes. But the Managed Instance team can still innovate and do new features in Managed Instance, provided it doesn't touch this DB version, which they do a lot of. That November feature wave is part of that. So that's a pretty cool story. Then Anna comes and says, hey, I can outdo you. And what she showed is a preview of an online switch back and forth AG scenario. I mean, it's cool.
Oh, wow.
So you take
That's amazing.
You take Managed Instance, you tie them together with an AG. We have a wizard that helps you set this up. And then instead of doing like a fail over, fail back, you just switch roles, primary and secondary now, like you would do in a DAG scenario. And you do this with a Managed Instance. So we showed a preview for that. That's part of his announcements there. In SQL Server 2022, this perhaps is one of the number one features I've gotten a lot of customers interested in. Is I want to use Managed Instance. I call it Managed Disaster Recovery, because if you don't have a DR site, no problem. Let Microsoft run one for you. That's kind of what this is all about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I was going to say to Bob's point, and in all the features coming to that have come to MI this year. That was the whole reason I needed to go through facial stretches after we had Nico on the show, because I spent most of the show going.
Yeah.
So afterwards, I had cramping in my face. I had to go, massage it out, because it was just the O face of, oh my gosh, that too. That's awesome. Was the entire show.
I work really closely with the team on this particular feature. I work with them on managed instance, a lot of things. This one in particular, though, I've been working with them from the very beginning of this project till now, to seeing it to fruition. And they were there at the event at PAX, like in the front row. And when we demonstrated this, like they came up afterwards and were like hugging us. Like, thank you. It's talking years of work to make all this possible. And it's pretty cool to see it actually come to fruition. That's one fun thing about launching a product like SQL Server 2022 is getting to see all this work behind the scenes show up at a big event like that, especially at the keynote like that at PAX Summit, and then see it come to life and actually work. And again, I had developers who were watching it live. I had people in the audience that were developers or program managers ping me and say, thank you so much, because I worked on what you showed. And it's pretty cool that I actually saw it launch as part of a product. So that's one of the fun moments you get to do when you launch a product like SQL Server.
Well, and there's, I love internals of stuff. And I love how, you look at this, and one of those things that we had to overcome to make this work is that database, that DBI, that database internal version number, because the backup and restore operation, we have an evergreen product in SQL Managed Instance where we're constantly taking code as it's code ready, and we're pushing it to that, so you get the latest and greatest without needing to upgrade. And people have been asking forever, why can't I take my backups and restore them on-prem? And the reason was that database internal version number. And the fact is that we figured out how to be able to get past that. And then with an availability group, you could always take a lower version and you could create a higher an availability group to a higher version to fail over for like a migration scenario. But the problem was, once you failed over, that database internal version number incremented and you couldn't go back. So the fact that we can fall back and forth from that on-prem SQL Server to managed instance, I mean, it's a little bit of magic. It's just beautiful.
And here's the cool thing. Let's say you're right now listening to us. And you're like, well, I'm not on 2022 and I can't go there yet. I'm SQL 16. You can still use this feature for migration and do it online. So today our online migration tools allow like a log shipping scenario to use like transaction log restores to do an online migration. Now you can think about using an availability group to do an online migration. So if you're on SQL 16, SQL 19, you can connect yourself to managed instance with this link feature for managed instance and use it as a migration strategy. And here's the one that'll blow your mind. We are coming soon is the ability for you to go in the portal and declare your managed instance as a disaster recovery managed instance. And when you do that, your SQL license is free.
Oh, wow.
Wow. There's the Josh.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a disaster recovery site, right? So you can do that with Azure VM today. You can set up an availability group with Azure VM and say, hey, that's a disaster recovery availability group replica. So you don't pay for your SQL license as part of that. You still pay for cores and that kind of thing. Same thing for MI. You will still pay for cores and storage, but when you declare as a disaster recovery as part of this new feature, you will not pay for the SQL license. So that's coming.
And you know what I love? That's actually already in the Azure calculator. And so I was working with a customer earlier this week, and we were building out their environment. And of course, one of the things they need to do is they need to go through the Azure calculator so they can look at the expenses, look at some of the benefits, like maybe doing a 3-year prepaid, so that way they can massively lower some of those costs. And somebody said, hey, what's this little option right there? And I said, oh, well, for your secondary, make sure and hit that. And the licensing costs disappeared. Yep. And I went, yep, this is going to be brand new. They were through the roof. They absolutely loved that. It was, I mean, immediately having an impact on customers today. Just great stuff.
Yep.
All right. So next up, Andreas, I have you. NVIDIA teams with Microsoft to build a massive cloud AI computer.
Okay, great. Let me jump into this in just a moment. First of all, since we're in the season of thankfulness, to highlight Neeraj's power of thankfulness. Thank you to the team here, because I get to cherish you more nearly day by day. So the next thing I'm thankful for is for Serginho's desk header to Christian Pulisic. The genius of the play was he could have gone for goal, but like a good Barcelonian, He decided to go for the pass. Bam. And Christian Pulisic found he got himself on the end of the ball. So the part of that play that was genius was that header.
Let's hope Christian Andreas can play Saturday, right?
Yeah, if you can, hopefully.
Oh yeah.
And the next thing I'm thankful for is for Scott Guthrie to make this this partnership, putting the bow on it for the holiday season. Now with NVIDIA and Microsoft together, companies are going to be able to bring up the GPUs they need to develop their AI. Now, heavy duty AI. There's the heavy duty when it comes to unsupervised and self-learning algorithms. You want some heavy duty GPUs behind there. So I'm going to be able to do that with NVIDIA behind the scenes and bringing up those clusters. The other great thing about this relationship is that you always want to develop as close to your production environment as possible. It's great to develop, to reduce costs in a CPU and environment. Maybe you're doing some AI on the edge. Now I can bring up some GPUs and I'm running a Jetson Nano, I'm running a Jetson Xavier on the edge. I can bring up a VM with the GPU on it, test out my AI, test out my models, then finally go and deploy to an Xavier device out on the edge. So this relationship is going to make it so much easier for people to develop, and for that final 100 yards, which is developing for AI edge. It's going to be a beautiful partnership. So thank you, Scott Guthrie, for making this happen. Back to you, Brian.
Awesome. Hey, much love. Very thankful for you guys and being on the show as well, Andreas. That was a very, very nice call out. Thank you, sir. Next up, we've got Josh Ludeman. And Josh, you have creating a Unity catalog in Azure Databricks, and this is by one of our MVPs, Megan Longoria.
Yeah, and so Unity catalog, and you can read this in Megan's article. Basically, it's in Databricks and provides a single place for managing access policies across all workspaces. So that's, again, the unity of Unity catalog. So being able to, kind of sync this across Databricks instances instead of having to set it up in each different workspace in an environment that you're working in. So I just wanted to bring this up. It's one of the newer features of Databricks, really hot. I mean, data governance is a big topic right now, not just at Microsoft with Purview, but also, other products getting on board as well. So I wanted to bring this up to the forefront. That, and Megan is a great blogger, great MVP, and featuring her on the show is just a no-brainer.
Absolutely. But I think we've had Megan Longoria's blogs on here a couple times. She does absolutely amazing work. Next up, I have Neeraj. Neeraj, you have Brent Ozar. What's new in SQL Server 2022?
Yep, that's a good video that Bob had kept it up. So that's something.
Microsoft Mechanics guys are amazing. Yeah, thank you.
So that's something that definitely want to do. But he's featuring few things like failover that Bob was just talking about, failover between back and forth between different versions, Azure Synapse Link integration, which is one of the bigger things also, and then SQL Server Edge for blockchains and all of them, and parameter sensitive plans. So that is something that definitely watch on it.
Yeah, so parameter sensitive plans. Oh, go ahead,
That's a good list. And parameter sensitive plan optimization, guys, that's a pretty cool one, right? But I will tell you, at the past summit, Neeraj, somebody came up to me and said, okay, what is your favorite feature? And here I am in this huge audience, right? And I'm going to piss off the entire product team because I'm going to pick a feature that's not there. So I'll tell you one that doesn't get the headlines. I call it hands-free TempDB. I mean, you guys have dealt, who's not dealt with TempDB madness for your life, right? Your career. So I showed a demo at the past conference with one TempDB data file, just one file, one log file. I have no latch contention. Anyway. So there you go. Take that.
I was going to say that it is such a beautiful one. As a matter of fact, I saw a video of this demo. There was a live Power BI report that was going to
probably David Plus.
Yeah, I think maybe it was Plus, but it was going to SQL 2019, and it was running an exercise to see the latch contention that you have. Of course, latch contention happens when we have page split operations. Latches or GAM the latches occur on GAM pages that are tracking our page free space, PFS pages, things of that nature. And we're adding all these different pages because what do people do with TempDB? They dump a whole bunch of data in there very, very quickly. We've got to populate these objects we create, we destroy. We may ETL them to be able to get the final thing that we need to present and use in some way, shape, or form. And then in SQL 2022, they do the exact same thing, the exact same workload, no latches. And that's because there was a change to use in-memory technology underneath the covers and parallel page free space scans as well, which alleviates all the latch contention. I mean, if you have a system and you're dealing with latch contention on TempDB, this is one of those. A long time ago, you and not a long time ago, but a while ago, SQL 2016, you and Bob Dorr did a whole session of it just runs faster on SQL 2016. This is going to be that scenario for people with excessive TempDB usage. Third-party vendors who use TempDB a lot, take note, it just runs faster. I mean, this is a beautiful change.
Now, I'm not suggesting, by the way, to go to one file. I did it for demonstration purposes to say, here's how crazy we've made this. Here's why I call it hands-free. Put your TempDB on a fast drive. So eliminate any I/O concerns. Put it in an SSD or something. That's what we do in Azure, right? Then use setup's recommendations for the files. Okay, let setup just pick the number of files, pick the sizes, the whole thing for the log and data, and then just turn on. You have to turn on TempDB embedded optimization. That's the in-memory thing you talked about. So you turn that on with Alter Server, and then it just works at that point, right? Now, another tidbit of this story, another hidden thing, is what I call Purvy's List. Purvi Shah is a developer within Microsoft. Not one of the smartest people I know within Microsoft on a development team, but one of the nicest and very quiet. But she works on our performance team. So she comes up with all these amazing things inside the engine to make it faster. It works both for the engine, in SQL Server, and in the cloud. So every time we release a SQL Server, I email her saying, hey, what's your list? What have you been working on that's not on a marketing slide? She's like, well, I've been working on a few things. And she gives me all these really things. I've improved spin locks and buffer pool and so forth. And then on her list, what caught my eye was instant file initialization for the transaction log. And I went, what? What are you talking about? Because we can't normally do that. And she's like, yeah, we have that now. As long as the log is, as long as the grow of the log is 64 meg or less, she can grow the log now using instant file initialization. Turns out the default auto grow is 64 meg. So that's why for even TempDB now, just put in these recommendations, just use TempDB, turn on metadata optimization, and it's hands-free.
My good, that is, look, I want to dive into that more with internals because, oh my God, you just blew my mind with the fact that we can use instant database file initialization with a log. Wow, I can't wait to play around with that.
Pretty cool.
Let me keep going on this though with the theme of the week and with Nico. I'm now going to go to a great blog from Vladimir Ivanok. And Vladimir has the November 2022 feature wave for Azure SQL Managed Instance. And one of the things he does is he walks through some of the benefits that you're going to get from this feature wave, how to get access to it in your dev test subscription, onboarding it, and then a look at the headers to be able to see that you have your feature wave status actually in place right here. This is a lot of great stuff. And for anybody wondering how to get access and play around with some of these things that Nico talked about on Tuesday that we've talked about in different blogs, this is how you do it. This is your instruction setup. So keep in mind, this is going to be in the comment section. You'll be able to grab this. And this is just really good stuff to be able to play around with that. Andreas, sorry, Bob. I was going to say,
going to say, I don't know if Nico talked about this, but one of the concepts here about the November feature wave is they want to make this a thing. Like this feature wave idea is them to come along with a collection of new features on a periodic basis and call it a wave. So it's just, this is not the first time. November is just what they're calling it, but you'll see other feature waves in the future.
Wow.
And one of the things that November feature wave that is groundbreaking is deployment time. It normally takes like 4 or 5 hours to deploy managed instance on a new cluster. So I got my hands on the early stuff. I have connections. I know people. Right? So next week at the Azure Data Conference, I will be demonstrating a 30-minute managed instance deployment time.
Wow. No.
Well, Josh, get your facial relaxation stretches going again, buddy.
Yeah. Yoga that face, man. You're good.
Because hello, Texas. Bob Ward just blew your mind.
Yeah, there you go.
All
Glad I'm
right.
wearing a hat to keep it together.
Okay, that is awesome. Well, it's good, and wow, so more waves are coming. I mean, because that's
this is just the first one. There'll be more feature waves. They haven't decided exactly that rhythm. I'm not sure how much Nico talked about this, but they call it the feature wave for a reason. They'd like to make that kind of a branding where they bring a collection of features in a wave, and then you kind of go adopt to it. So yeah.
Wow, that is awesome, awesome stuff. Andreas, I'm going to cut to you real quick. Set up an Azure Cosmos database custom endpoint directly from IoT Hub.
So we're switching gears a little. I know we're not talking about SQL, but I'm thankful to Usha for posting this and blogging about this. Thank you, IoT Hub team and IoT team and Cosmos DB team to make this happen. Like everybody always wants more cowbell. You can't have enough cowbell. You want more routes. Routes reduce hops. Routes reduce extra services coming into IoT scenarios. If I bring in data from an IoT hub and I want to push it into Cosmos DB, before I had to go to an Azure function, a streaming analytics job, one more service that I had to worry about. Now I just create a route directly to Cosmos DB, bam, and my data ends up in Cosmos DB. One less hop, faster, more cost efficient.
You know me, I love easy buttons. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I want more cowbell.
So that's an easy button. Press it, gone.
No, the cowbell is great. Speaking of cowbell, we got something pretty cool as well from George Walters. Josh, this is you migrating your workloads to Azure Database for MySQL.
Yeah, so this is a great article, kind of walking through the considerations and executing a migration to Azure Database for MySQL, which is one of our past services, focusing on the open source database platforms. We have Postgres, Maria, and MySQL out there. Reference this is because it's a great, thorough post George put out there on the Data Architecture Community blog. But more importantly, George is a great resource at Microsoft. Known George for many, many years, all the way back to his time, and is one of the top premier field engineers in the U.S. on SQL servers. So definitely just wanted to bring him to the front as someone that, if you have questions in SQL Server, definitely look for anything George has put out there.
Absolutely. George Walters, great guy, known him for a long time, and just tremendous in the SQL community. Absolutely. So speaking of the SQL community, I'm up next, and I'm going to show, because we've talked about this several times, the official T-SQL Tuesday website, because this does move from website to website. You can see right now the current invitation from back in November is up that Tom Zika had, but the next invite is coming out on December the 6th. So just a little less than a week away. And your timeline for this is going to be a week. So they will announce the subject on December the 6th. You have about a week to prepare. And then you need to go. And when you write your blog, you put it over on whoever is hosting. And so if you're looking at a way to get involved with the community to be able to blog on the subject, as a matter of fact, I have not participated in T-SQL Tuesday in quite some time. I'm doing it. I'm throwing my hat in. So this next one, whatever it is, I will be blogging about this. So that way I can go participate. And if you're looking for an opportunity to participate in the SQL community, great way to be able to do it. So head over to the T-SQL Tuesday website. Next Tuesday, the invitation comes out and we will see who's blog hosts.
So I have to say something, Brad, for two things, actually. First of all, I'm going to laugh if the next T-SQL Tuesday, after how much you've talked about how much you love internals today, that if the next one is anything but internals, I'm going to laugh. Because now you've committed to do it, and then they say something like anything but what you love, I'm going to laugh. It's going to be hilarious.
It'll be a struggle, but I can make it. I yammer on about a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with internals.
Yeah.
I'm the donkey from Shrek, right? The trick is not getting me talking; it's shutting me up. Speaking of shutting me up, next up we have Neeraj, and I don't think I'm on the right one, but I'm going to flip over to it. The World Cup is wired and fueled by AI.
So, I mean, the talk of the town right now is everybody's talking about World Cup, right? I mean, everybody included, it's going on. But technology is involved, right? I mean, it's not just players playing up there. There's so much technology available in there. They have soccer balls that are like sensor thing. They have cooling systems in there. They have video thing for the referees to make sure they are doing the right thing. So many things in the technology. So just wanted to make sure that technology is a part of anything that you do right now. So.
Absolutely. And it's a great call out, right? Because when you get to look at real life and you're not thinking about the technology, you're thinking about the sport. Sports is just a great way to be able to do that because of all the IoT sensors and the way that we gather the data, and then AI and ML to be able to aggregate and crunch that, show us percentages, show us, opportunities, things of that nature, be able to show all the different targets from where shots have come on the field. It's amazing when technology is not part of the story. You just kind of forget about it, but it's hard work that goes into making that technological achievement. And it's all over the World Cup. I absolutely love it.
Let's
Andreas,
go US on Saturday, right? It's Saturday.
You got that right.
Is there
Absolutely.
an AI prediction in there for the US game? Are you going to predict it, Neeraj? You got a prediction?
They have a AI model that predicts it out right now.
And what is the current prediction?
Right now, it's Netherlands winning.
No, that was the wrong answer.
Don't say that, man.
Wrong answer.
You had one job, buddy. One job.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Buck and see if we can't make an adjustment on that.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. Talk to Buck about sports. That will be an interesting conversation.
Sports ball. Yes.
Absolutely. Buck, we need something done with the sports ball.
He'll say, is that the sport where the guys run around in the grass or something? Yeah, he'll say something.
Yes, Buck. Yes, that's the one.
The only one.
Andreas, I've got you up next with structured streaming in Azure Synapse.
Thank you to Brenton Addy for posting this. I'm constantly getting customers that want structured streaming, and they're in their Synapse environment, and they don't want to leave. They're like, I don't want to leave Synapse. Why do I have to bring in Databricks to do this, to do structured streaming? Bam. There's a great post that shows you how to do structured streaming with serverless pools in Synapse.
Beautiful. I love it. And it takes you through the bronze, the silver, the gold for Delta. Look at this. They're doing it off of turbines. We've got the bronze configuration. I love a super detailed blog post that gives us not only that, but the code step by step for us to be able to take out, to throw into the process and be able to do ourselves. Beautiful stuff, Andreas. I love it. And then last, but certainly not least, I have Josh with troubleshooting external data and access policies in Azure SQL and Azure SQL Server.
So this blog post I brought because I realized I needed to cater a little bit to Brad. All the recent, well, not throughout the show, the disqualifications and things like that I realized, what, I need to be nice to Brad. So I brought this great troubleshooting article from Andreas Walter from the PG around troubleshooting external data and access policies in Azure SQL and SQL Server. And he walks through some great scenarios here, looking at policies and troubleshooting them, obviously, determining, again, allowed operations, ages of policies, things like that. It's a great, thorough article getting into the internals of SQL Server. And I'm like, you know what? This is a good blog post to bring. This will make Brad happy. Look at all that code, Brad.
I love this. I love it when my colleagues bring us a blog post and I go, "Ooh, I'm going to go read this later." And the second I pulled this up and I saw this, that was my exact thought. Andreas, fantastic PM on the SQL Server product group, going through weight types, going through the code that we need to be able to find the external policies affecting us and affecting these logouts. Oh, this. Thank you, Josh. I really appreciate it. When I saw
all the code, I'm like, oh, Brad's running this after the show. It's going to happen. He's going to go through this, load it up, all the scripts, done.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Okay. Well, I want to take a moment and thank Bob Ward once again for being with us. Bob, it was so good to have you here. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you to everyone for the great community content. And thank you to the product groups for the great releases that we have and all these wonderful features we get to celebrate. Don't forget to go out and check out datasaturday.com, SQLsaturday.com. Look for your local community events. They are coming up. We've already talked about it. Azure Data Conference is next week. SQL Bits is coming up in March. A lot of great stuff. At that Azure Data Conference, you're going to have Buck Woody, Bob Ward, David Murray, Patrick LeBlanc, Rohan Kumar, Scott Guthrie's going to be there. Anything I'm forgetting, guys?
Andres is the host.
Oh, Andreas is the host. That's right, on next Tuesday. Make sure and join us and check that out. Thank you
Christmas
so much.
Miracle next Tuesday. Christmas Miracle.
It comes once a year. It comes once a year.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend and take care of one another out there.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.